team, back again this week. So today I'm going to be talking to the gorgeous Caitlin from the Mummas Collective. So if you're not already following her over on the gram, get over to Instagram and you can see all about her. I will actually let her introduce herself to you, but as usual, the materials and content in this conversation are recommended and are not to be used as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. So, don't be a pelican and speak to your healthcare professional if you need to. So I will bring Caitlin onto the camera and we will kick off. We're getting there. We're adding slowly but surely. So we're going to be talking about lots of different things today. We've had a few really great questions come through. If you guys saw my update, Caitlin is a registered nurse. She's also a CrossFit coach, and she's a mum of 4 kids, which is hectic. I think even just thinking about that, I feel overwhelmed. So we're going to hear today all about how she manages that and the way she kind of gets through life with all that going on. So I'll just see what's going on here. I'll try that again. Hey Jamie. Caitlin. I'm adding, but I can't seem to get her on. Why can't I get her on? Let's see here. Oh, we're connecting. We have connected. We are on.
Oh, hey. Hey.
You look glam today.
I was like, I dressed up for you guys.
Got dressed up with me.
Yeah,
Thanks.
totally.
Got out of your
Otherwise, it could be like, I know, right? Mind you, that is actually the better part of my wardrobe, to be honest.
Me too.
But, I could, legit probably kick around in my house in the same, holy 20-year-old shirt for 4 days before anyone would notice. So doing this is like, oh, good. It's like I'm going out.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
So, can you tell everybody a little bit about who you are? What's your background?
Yeah.
Cliff's notes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm Caitlin, obviously. I'm a mum. I've got 4 kids. My youngest is not quite 10 months, and my eldest boy just turned 8. I'm a registered nurse. I've worked in women's health, gynecology for over 10 years now, but admittedly, I've had chunks of mat leave in that time. So
for the last 10 years, you've been pregnant or breastfeeding?
Oh, like coming and going. I've been dabbling in the nursing field. I feel like if I was looking after you and something went wrong, I would totally have you in the clinical side of things, but my paperwork and computer skills would be really bad.
Delegate.
I know, right? Technically, I'm senior because on paper I've had this qualification for a long time.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how recent I am. And I have I did coach CrossFit for a short while, and I worked in a couple of other gyms around Brisbane that weren't necessarily CrossFit specific, but were functional training gyms. And I trained my own squad for a little while, but I'm not doing any coaching anymore.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm done. That chapter's done.
Cool.
For me.
So yeah. Can you tell us one thing that you are digging at the moment? So that could be food, it could be a mindset, it could be a clothing item, it could be a way of training. Sure. I don't know, just something you're digging.
What am I digging? I'm digging on my doTERRA oils at the moment. I'm I know I never thought I would get into the business side of things, but and actually when I had Inika, I actually put myself on this work ban for a minimum of 12 months because I have this habit of I have a baby and then when they get to about 8 or 10 months I get the jitters and I'm like, I'm gonna start a business, I'm starting a business, I'm doing it. And then I get overworked and I'm the mum, I'm sort of like the glue of the family. Everybody feels really stretched, really thin. And then I go, oh, it's too hard. Why did I do this?
Yeah.
So I actually put myself on a worked ban this time around for 12 months. But I haven't quite made it to the 12-month mark again.
You're an
Geez,
overachiever.
yeah. Well, I feel I like doing I like doing this. So I put myself back in that position and I'm having fun. So I think I need to accept that that's part of my personality. And once I accept that and move along, it's fun. So I'm having a lot of fun playing around with that,
Awesome.
digging on that.
I'm
Yeah.
digging medial dates stuffed with almond butter coated in dark chocolate.
Always digging on that. Digging on cream in my coffee,
Oh,
like
yes.
every day.
You know
Yeah,
what? I
yeah.
really wish I could
Butter.
deal with dairy. I'm fine with butter, fine with ghee.
Yeah.
Yogurt for me is the worst, which seems
Oh,
strange
really?
because
That's so odd because
you
it's
would think that a fermented
the
dairy I
lactose
would do
is
better with,
breaking
but
it down.
negative
Mm,
ghostwriter. But it's not.
yeah,
It's not the whey or it's not the lactose that I have an intolerance to. It's
yeah,
the whey and the casein. So if there's any sort of
yeah,
milk
clearly.
proteins, I'm fucked, basically.
Ah, wow.
So
Damn, that's a shame for you.
I have a bit of a question that just sort of popped into my head as you were talking about your background in
Yeah.
nursing.
Hmm.
And you
Yeah.
said you were in gynecology and that sort of side of things. So
Yeah.
I also look at you and think, total hippie mama. Like you are just totally into, the natural stuff and, like minimizing waste and all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
I know from experience, my background is in animal health pharmaceuticals. So I did an
Yeah.
animal health degree at uni and went into animal health pharmaceutical repping for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. And
Yeah.
eventually really found that pharmaceutical industry really just the
Yeah.
opposite of what I actually believe in life.
Yeah.
So for me, I just needed to get out of that space. How do you
Yeah.
find being in a conventional medical setting when you have that
Yeah.
real, intuitiveness to go towards a more natural approach to things?
Yes. This is it's a good question, and it's something that I feel like I do struggle with being a nurse, because when you are a registered nurse and you work in the healthcare system, you really have to, you are bound by that healthcare system and you have to practice within that. And I don't have a problem with that. I really like people. I really like interacting with people until I don't, and then I need a break. But I love the patient contact of nursing. Like I love talking with women and I love being with women, and often when they come to when they're in the state that they're in, whereby I would have contact with them, as in a hospital ward, we do a lot of gynae oncology. So any oncology, any part of the female reproductive system, breast, uterus, cervix, vagina, any female reproductive organ that gets a cancer comes to the gynecology ward. So we see all of that. Then we also see all of the general gynae problems. So women who have urinary problems, any of that type of stuff will come to us. And also women who, for whatever reason, can't go to maternity. So if it's insensitive to them, as in if they've had a really sad outcome and their baby hasn't, survived, they come to us because it's really insensitive for them to be put in a maternity ward. So by the time they get to us, I feel like it's gone past that area of wellness that I would
Yes.
like sort of tend to preach. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't have a place. Like I think you can always like really help people going forward. I think once they are in that situation, you really are like, you're trying to get them up and out of bed. You're trying to get them mobile. You're trying to get to that next sort of point where they're okay. I think that the wellness aspects come into play well before they go into hospital. But also, having said that, I'm not saying that by living an extremely holistically well life, you're going to be prevented from getting any type of cancer, because that's just not the case.
No.
But yeah, I think it all has a place, and I'm actually having a lot of fun working with doTERRA now, because I'm seeing this shift. It's like they've taken oils out of the hands of the healers. they're changing it from just the lang lang and patchouli and let's all sprinkle that around a chai tent and have a happy dance. Like, that's fine. Like, everyone has their day doing that, and by all means go ahead and do that. But they're really sort of moving into such a clinical area, and they have, you know, independent medical practitioners using them, you know, doing studies on them. So I think that kind of, you know, that's one example, but I'm sure there's so many others where there's a bit of a shift now in bit more of a merging of like traditional sort of dead set Western medicine and a more of a holistic approach. So
yeah, and I think there's a place for both of those things. Like, if
oh,
I'm
absolutely.
in a car accident, I will use
yeah,
take me to a hospital.
yeah,
I do not want to see my
yeah,
acupuncturist. I want to go to the
hell
hospital,
no, yeah,
and I want
yeah,
somebody
yeah,
there to look
yeah,
after me.
yeah.
But then,
Oh, absolutely.
you know,
You want the top trauma surgeon in the world, yeah, on
absolutely.
that day.
So I
Yeah,
think there's place
yeah,
with that. But yeah, I think it's just really
yeah,
interesting when you are in that space and you see a very symptom-based treatment to disease,
yeah,
as opposed to dealing with the root cause. That's where I really start to struggle with.
absolutely.
You know, there's
Oh,
so
yeah,
many other
yeah,
non-invasive things that we can be, you know, encouraging people to give a try before they go shoving pills down their throat that have
yeah,
way more side
absolutely.
effects than they do, you know,
Yeah,
good
oh,
outcomes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. I think it is very much, yeah, you know, that in the hospital you do just see so many cases of, you know, do you really need to be here? You know, but then what do? You can't discriminate either. If somebody needs healthcare, they need healthcare.
100%.
You know, if they're making poor life choices, if they continue to take their IV poles out the front and smoke cigarettes, it's like, well, you're just in that position. They're just as entitled to healthcare as the person sitting beside them who's only ever eaten organic kale and sniffed organic lavender their whole life. So yeah, it's tricky.
It is tricky. It is tricky. But then, you know, you look at the complete debacle that our healthcare system is in and the cost of healthcare, you know, to government, to the country. And you just think, seriously, where's the direction for people before they get to that point?
Yeah.
Where's the direction
exactly
for people to help prevent them from, you know, ending up in that dire situation? But anyway,
exactly.
by the by.
Anyway.
Let's move on. So
tackling the big things.
I know. We've started heavy.
Straight up. Woo.
So you've got a background in CrossFit and coaching, training.
Yeah.
You also were quite an epic CrossFit athlete in your heyday, by the looks of things. How has your training changed since having kids, and what does that look like for you now?
So a couple of it has changed. Before I actually didn't start CrossFitting until after I'd had 2 kids. So prior to that, I used to run a lot. Running was my thing. Running and general gym. So I was definitely one of those people that if I hadn't done, you know, a minimum of 10Ks, like absolute minimum, then I hadn't even worked out. You know, some days depending on what I was doing, it would be like anywhere between 10 and 36Ks. Like that was the thing, or at least an hour in the gym. I guess I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the social aspects, and I've always kept pretty fit. But it wasn't until after I had Amy, who's my second born, that I actually started CrossFitting. And when I did, I just loved it. Like I just fell in love with the training methodology. I loved the coaches that I was training under. I loved the women that I was training with. So it was just one of those real kind of glory eras where I loved it, and that's all I wanted to do, and went pretty hard for a couple of years before having another couple of babies. So I guess at that point there was this whole massive shift in my training methodology. So then, like, that translating through 3rd and 4th pregnancies, it's been really good because it has taught me how to train efficiently and effectively. You know, it's given me like, so although I'm not like, and I've trained CrossFit through both pregnancies, and like, although I'm not overly CrossFitting now, there's that really good CrossFit quote that is scalable by degree, not by kind. So it's like I can go into the gym and I can train beside the fittest guy in the world. We can do technically the same workout with the same stimulus, but it can look drastically different. So with the pregnancies, it was just a matter of dialing it back, layer upon layer, and until, you know, yeah, pretty much until I had both kids, I was able to train right up to 40 weeks. But now I guess it looks like, you know, some days I'll get 10 minutes on the deck and I'll work out whilst the kids are here. Some days I will go to the gym and train by myself. And I'm just trying to get into a CrossFit gym once or twice a week, because it is that sport where the more you are training, the more you love it and the more you want to train. And I'm certainly not in that headspace now, but I do still like to identify with that as a sport. I think one thing about CrossFit, and this sort of has pros and cons, is that, you know, being always measurable and therefore always repeatable, which is one of the reasons that it's so successful as a sport and as a training methodology. It's got pros and cons, you know, because after you have a baby, you might not feel like training, you might be injured, you might not have slept for the last 6 years. Like, there's all of these
factors. You might not
factors.
be able to do
so
double
then
unders without pissing yourself.
Exactly. You never know what's going to happen, really. It's a bit of a gamble. So, you know, there's pros and cons to that, because it can leave you feeling, you know, it can really leave a bit of a bitter taste in your mouth. Or at the moment, like, I'm in this position where I don't really want to go to the CrossFit gym at the moment, because I don't want to put myself in that position where I'm really going to hurt. Like, I don't have that headspace to be mentally brutalized by a workout, because I've got 4 kids. That's enough mental brutalization on the daily. Like, I don't need to be having that in the gym. So I just need to find a space where I'm happy to walk in and go, I'm not going to complete that as you've got written on the board. Today I'm here and I'm going to be happy with 60%. Whereas I think a lot of CrossFit gyms are like, if you're not going 110, like, go home. So I think you've really got to be careful around mindset. Like, if you want to belch yourself, then by all means, like, go for it. But at some point you have to be able to go, no, this is what I need right now, and I'm here for wellness, and I'm here for a break. I'm here to do something for me, and if what I've got today is 60%, then that's okay.
I think CrossFit attracts that sort of person, though, that type A sort of person who is going to belt themselves. And I belted myself at CrossFit for a number of years, until I had adrenal fatigue and could barely pick myself up off the floor, because I thought the answer to that was I need to CrossFit harder, and that is not the answer. But I think it's a case of having coaches as well that you can be totally honest with and walk in and go, I'm actually really not feeling up to this today, and I'm going to scale this workout and not feel the pressure of anyone saying to you, hey, you can actually do it, you know, as prescribed. You don't need to scale it. And also kind of feel okay with going, I'm actually just, get halfway through it and think, I'm not into this, I'm out. Like, I just, and not feel bad about that. I think
that's exactly, I had that exact experience the other day, because I said to the coach, I'm like, look, I'm going to scale this workout, because you know, it was either a choice of that or not coming at all. So I've decided that coming and doing a little bit of something is always better than nothing. So and it's good. There are those coaches out there.
Absolutely. And I think as well, you know, it's not the coach's responsibility to manage you, but it's our own responsibility as a human being, as an intuitive human being, to realize when more isn't always better. Sometimes it's just more. And you need to just calm down. And sometimes, you know, just moving weights from one side of the room to the other, that's fine. That's enough. Call it done.
Yeah. I'll pack away your barbell. That'll be my workout. Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I think CrossFit's it's an amazing space, because it creates this incredible community where everyone is encouraging each other, and everyone is, you know, egging each other on and supporting each other and wanting everyone to do better. But when you have that type A personality, that can be super detrimental, because you don't feel like you have that ability to step back or go, I just can't today. Like, you got to show up. And also, it's expensive. Like, it's expensive to think, I'm feeling really tired and I'm only, like, I just really need a couple of weeks of only coming once or twice a week. you feel like you
Yeah.
need to be there 4 or 5 times a week to actually get your money for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and to like follow the workouts, because if you're like, oh, I'm just going to go, I can go on Wednesday because that suits me, and then it's like a weird accessory workout, or
Yes.
6 by 6,000 meter runs with 30 muscle ups at the end of each round.
Yeah.
That's no good to me.
No, no.
So yeah,
Exactly. I'm just
yeah,
going to do some mobility and go home.
yeah. How about that? Yeah,
Absolutely. So you've got 4 kids. That's a lot.
I do.
Your life is very, very
Yeah,
full.
it is.
How do
It's
you?
full.
Oh, how do you? That's just actually the question. How do you? How?
Yeah. How? Good question. Okay, so I think having 4, there's a few things that you've got to do. Like from the beginning, I think you have to be prepared to upscale, obviously. Um, Upscale your car. Just accept the fact that you're now going to drive a van, which I fucking love, by the way. It's the greatest thing
I've
ever.
heard that from a lot of people who've got vans now. They're like, why did I not get a van at 1 kid? This is amazing.
I know. Accept the van life and just live it. It's really great. I'm going to say food is a massive thing. So batch cooking, like do a workshop with yourself, obviously. But that is one thing that I've upscaled drastically since having 4. And I honestly wish I'd done it when I had 2, because I think about the time that I would have bought myself back. But yeah, so like a massive batch cook a couple of times a year, really, like it serves me so well. So I did one massive one before I had Inika, when I was a couple of weeks away from having her. And I like cooked so much food. I cryovac everything and I froze it. And I was literally so worried about the freezer. I've got a second freezer, popping open in the night, that I put like a child lock on it, because I was that worried about losing that much of a haul, that much time and money and wastage. So that's really one thing that saves me like every day, because I know that a couple of times a week I'm going to reach for something out of the freezer, and so that buys me time that day
so
with the kids.
what are you batch cooking?
So at the moment I did bolognese, which like I think every parent just is like, just accept the fact, like it's one of those things, we all have eaten 1,000 of them in our lifetime, but if you can get the veggies in there, if you can get the good food in there, whatever. So we probably have that once a week. Yeah, they do. Yeah, so that or we turn it into a lasagna or whatever.
Yeah.
A really awesome satay chicken. I did this time around with heaps of bone broth, heaps of lemon, heaps of peanut butter. It's so good. We had that last night actually. The other thing I've got in there is a really nice split pea soup. I make sure that I do at least 1 or 2 veggie dishes as well. That's always a thing that my eldest son requests when I ask for requests. And this really nice beanie mix. It's got quite a few legumes in there, tomatoey base with heaps and heaps of veggies blended up with some bacon in there. So that's really nice to be able to pull out for baked eggs in the morning or breakfasts or lunch. So that's what's in there currently. So I'll probably change it. I'm trying to do that like 1 full day of cooking before each school term starts. So I'll change that next time I cook, obviously. But that means that during the week I'll probably cook like a couple of evenings per week, as opposed to cooking every night, which really changes the landscape of my day, because I am either able to train, I'm able to do stuff with the kids, I'm able to do some work, able to say yes to going to the park, that kind of stuff. And it also has brought back time on the weekend. So instead of being like, no, I've got to stay home and batch cook, Ryan, you're just going to have to take everyone out of here, so because I've got to prep for the week. So it's taken that sort of burden off. So if I do have some time to food prep, I can make some stuff for lunch boxes and that kind of thing. So that's one thing, upscaling food and batch cooking. What else saves me on the daily?
So
you need to sort of
like 4 kids. I mean, I have 1, and I just at least once a week say, everybody stop wearing clothes. Just seriously, Like,
Yeah, right.
just be
Oh,
nude
yeah,
because enough is enough. And I feel like, I don't
yeah.
know, what's your hack for that? Do you just burn them all? Like, just burn all the clothes and start again every week?
Oh, I wish I could actually show you my washing pile. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. Yeah, it's, but I don't know, washing, I don't hate doing the laundry. I hate putting the folded piles away.
Me too.
I'm quite happy to get them to folded, but beyond that, I'm like, nah, you can do it yourselves,
Yeah.
honestly. Um, so it's kind of like unpacking the dishwasher. If you just leave it there for long enough and grab what you need, eventually it's all gone, right? So
That's a good hack.
there you
If
go.
it wasn't in the middle of the kitchen where I'd like kick my leg on it every time I walked
Oh,
past.
yeah, that's the problem with the dishwasher. Yeah, the washing, yeah, look, I'm not gonna lie, it's huge. Like, it's a huge workload. Like, Ryan and I are probably up from 5 or 5:30 every morning. At the moment, the Inika's not going to sleep of an evening till like 9 o'clock. I'm like, dude, read the baby manual.
Yeah.
It says here.
7 o'clock. It says
No, so she's
Tizzy
I know,
says
right?
7.
Boom. I know, right, Tiz? Yeah, where is she when you need her? That's what happens when you don't have kids and you write a how to parent book, isn't it? Anyway, I'll just try to not say anything offensive about that. Yeah, so there is no time, like, apart from now, obviously, there is very little time without a child um, underfoot. And I don't know, I feel like I lost my shit way more when I had 2 kids. And I think maybe that's because I still had hope and expectation that my life would be, that I would, have something that resembles a life. Sometimes Ryan and I, like, we have this conversation. I think, like, once you go past 3 kids, for us, or for me and for him, that's just meant, like, absolutely, you need to really sink into motherhood, fatherhood, parenthood. Like,
Yeah.
there is not a lot of room for other things. And I think it probably sounds like I'm saying it in a negative way, which I don't mean to. It's made us become quite minimalistic in our, like, approach to life. Like, there's no time for white noise. Like, there's no time for, those excess appointments or this and that. You have the time to do what you really, really, really want to do and what you really prioritize. And so for us, that's fitness. And then the rest of the time is spent with family and spent doing this. Like, we see our friends and we do that sort of thing, which is lovely. But, really, like, it's made us really sink into it, which is actually a beautiful place to be, because you minimize the white noise in your life. So
Yeah.
although I'm extremely busy on the daily, I don't feel cluttered, I guess, in my life. I don't know if
But
that
that's probably your normal
makes
now
sense.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm one of
Yeah.
I'm one of 5 kids, and I constantly, like,
Yeah.
I only have one, and I still just think, hell the how the hell,
Yeah.
how the hell is my mum even a remotely sane human being at this point in time? Like,
Right.
just,
She's probably not.
well, but she is. She's incredibly
Yeah.
sane, and she still offers to
Yeah.
have the grandkids. Like, every
Yeah.
they want to have all the grandkids, and I'm like, haven't you done your time? Like, I'd be going to
Yeah. Oh,
feed it or move
yeah.
out.
But that's a good part, don't you think? Like, just doing the really fun stuff and doing all the things that you maybe felt like you couldn't do as a mum, like
Yeah.
say yes to ice cream, take 3 hours to walk from the front door to the car, whereas a mum, you
Seriously.
feel like you're always under the pump, or,
Yes. Yeah. And I
yeah,
think that's a really interesting point that you said, you lost your shit way more when you had 2 kids. And I think one of the things that I really learnt very quickly after I had G was that I really needed to lower my expectations of
yeah,
everything, of myself, of
yeah,
what was actually ever going to be
yeah,
achieved in a day, especially in
yeah,
those first, I would say, 6 months where you're really in the
yeah,
trenches of that.
yeah,
And you just, when you're somebody who's used to being quite productive and getting a lot of things done and achieving a lot in a day, to go from that to feeling like you just get nothing done,
yeah, yeah.
it's actually,
Uh,
it's
I,
a bit soul destroying.
yeah. it's so soul destroying. It's very soul destroying. I couldn't agree more. And I think that that's what I think I had also had that experience of having Otis and Amy, my elder two, close together. They're 19 months apart. And so then Amy was about 3.5 before I had Arlo, who's our third. So I had that experience of being really, really in the trenches with two babies. And Ryan at that point was fly in, fly out worker. So I used to do alternate weeks on my own. And I literally did not sleep. Like there was no sleep. And I was running an appointment-based business from my house at the time, and we were renovating. So it was just this. It was actually quite awful. Like I would not recommend that. Don't ever do that. Yeah. So I think that I did it really, really, really tough, and I think that I really probably didn't enjoy it as much as I could have, because I felt so stressed and so tired all the time. I was hopeless at asking for help or accepting help. There was probably people around me that would have that wanted to do stuff for me, but I was just so stoic. I think also having a FIFO partner, when they're just not here for times, and when shit gets really tough, if there's no one else around, you just teach yourself to do it, and you just do it. You don't have the option. So I think that can also be quite damaging, because now down the track, it's like, oh, I actually can ask you for help. I can ask you to come home from work early. Wow, that's crazy. I never even thought that could happen.
Yeah.
So there's pros and cons to that. But having said that, sitting in those baby days, I didn't enjoy it as much as I could have. I didn't appreciate them once I was little. I had blinkers on because it was so hard. It was like getting through the days was my thing. So then I think I got spat out the other side of that, whereby my older kids are off to school in kindy, and then I actually just feel really lucky, because having a third baby, I went into that thinking I have zero expectations that I'm ever going to get anything done for myself ever. And I have, zero judgment or expectation about what it's going to be like having a third baby. So I think that was a really nice place to sit, because it allowed me to sink into motherhood and go, I'm actually supposed to sit on the couch for 4 months after I have a baby. That's where I belong, burning a hole there.
Yeah.
And so that was nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's so interesting, isn't it? And I think, we have these expectations, but they're nobody else's expectations. They're our expectations.
No.
Like no one else gives a hoot.
Yeah.
No one else gives a hoot.
Without a doubt.
Washing, or wash your hair.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think they expect to come over and walk into bedlam. So, so if they don't, they're like, oh, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
You're all alive. It's amazing.
And it's so funny. Like I kind of look back and I think, fuck, if I'd known then what I know now, you just do it so different. And
wouldn't you?
Absolutely. And I think I would just really lower my expectations, and which itself would have lowered the amount of stress and anxiety that I felt in that period afterwards, where I just felt so overwhelmed all the time and just so wound up. Like I think I was just constantly wound up, because I felt like nothing I did was enough. There wasn't enough doing enough of anything. Whereas I really now would have just kind of gone, one job, keep the kid alive. That's it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's really funny. We just have so much expectation on ourselves that we're going to be able to keep all of these balls in the air. Like you're going to be able to keep your business running at its full potential. Like you're going to be the best mum around. You're only going to feed your kids these foods. They're only going to play with like the most beautiful German wooden toys. Have all of these preconceptions and expectations, and when it just doesn't, when it plays out really, really differently to how you potentially expected it, it can be a real blow, and you've got to find that place to cut yourself a bit of slack and just be okay with that. But that's really hard to come around to that, I think.
So I think on the back of that, I think a lot of women go into this, into pregnancy, even at the beginning, with this expectation of, I'm only going to eat organic food, and I'm going to do all of the holistic meditation, and I'm going to do, all of the things, and I'm
Yeah.
going to only eat the right foods while I'm pregnant, and I'm not going to eat ice cream or chocolate or whatever it is that they tell themselves that they're not
Yeah.
going to eat. And then that carries through into the, okay, and then this is what my birth is going to look like. And I have no ability to allow anything outside of that. Like, I will not accept that that's not going to go how I'm going to let it go. Then once I have the baby, I'm going to breastfeed for however long it is that you want to breastfeed, and my baby's going to sleep, and I'm going to do sleep training or not do sleep training, or I'm going to co-sleep, or I'm not going to co-sleep, or you have these expectations, and when anything goes off that path, you feel completely out of control. You feel like, fuck, what a failure. Like, why wasn't I able to do X, Y, or Z? So what I would really like for you to talk about is your births, if you are open to doing that.
Absolutely.
You've had 4 of them. Were they similar? Were they different? Did you have a preconceived idea going into any of them that was different to how it panned out in the end?
So my firstborn came at 36 weeks. So that really took me by surprise. And I guess I hadn't started doing my birth prep yet. I hadn't started like reading the books and blah, blah, blah.
Your perineum.
That's right. Hadn't started that yet. So good. So yeah, and I felt so good in my pregnancy at that point, and so many of my friends or people that I'd watched have babies that I knew, with the first baby they had to go to 42 weeks and be induced. So in my mind, I actually had another 6 weeks of pregnancy, because I was like, yep, that's definitely going to be me. When I get to 40 weeks, I'm going to make the baby come out. I'm going to do the things. Yeah, do those, get on the raspberry leaf.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I've done a birth plan, and I, in this conversation, I'm just going to say, I do believe in birth plans. I believe in them for the reason that it just maps out a few things that you've thought about. It's not like, I'm going to have the baby at 11. This song is going to be playing. I'm going to be facing east. This angle, please, in this outfit. That's not what a birth plan is. It's like, best case scenario, these are the things that I'd like to use. And this is what I don't want to happen. So that is, like, I like to keep it really simple and keep it really open. And I also think that they're important for you to be able to give to your partner or your birth support or whoever's going to be there, so that they can advocate for you. Because I think that when you're in labor, you're right. I know, and I've learned this many times.
You're just like,
you are not
straight into my eyeballs. Whatever you got, I'll take it.
Pretty much. Like, when I was, that's kind of not funny. I don't want to be too morbid, but I had an incident after my 4th labor, which I'll make it to in a minute, where I was on the way out, and I was just like, Ryan, red frogs, red frogs. I didn't want to admit that anything was wrong, even though I knew something was wrong. But I knew that if they found out that something was wrong, they would take me away, and I didn't want to be taken away from my baby. So I thought that just being handed a sugar lolly would help. So you're not able to advocate for yourself very well at times. So I think it's really important that the people around you have a birth plan. But yeah, so Otis, my first son, came at 36 weeks. So that took me by surprise. I didn't know that was going to happen. My waters broke at 3 a.m. one morning. So we went straight into the hospital. I stayed in overnight then. They were contemplating, like, let's just see what happens. Like, in an ideal case, you'll go into labor naturally. But if that doesn't happen, we'll consider either inducing you or sending you home on antibiotics and hopefully giving the baby another week. Anyway, about 24 hours after my waters broke, I did go into labor. The labor was about 18 hours. So I think I started having mild contractions quite early in the morning, 4 or 5, and then he was born at about 11 o'clock that night. I've had all of my babies at the birth centre at the Royal Brisbane. So that's a midwifery based care. So you have a team of 3 midwives, and they do all your antenatal appointments. They deliver your baby and then they follow up with you at home for 2 weeks after. So I've done that model every time, and it's amazing, like absolutely amazing. I can't imagine actually doing anything else. They become part of your family. So felt really well looked after in that regard. My first two labours were quite similar. I used the FIFO pretty much the entire time. I wasn't comfortable anywhere else. I tried the shower, but I just felt agitated. I couldn't handle, didn't feel relaxed in there. Because Otis, my firstborn, came at 36 weeks, I couldn't use the bath. You have to be full term, 37 weeks to do that. So that wasn't an option. And then I suppose when I was going into my next birth, I was like, no, I know what worked for me. And because I hadn't liked the shower, I was like, no, I don't think I like the bath. It's not, the water didn't work for me. So yeah, I guess you did ask, did it go like really differently to what I'd expected? I guess I'd done a small amount of reading of one book, and it was sort of like active, you know, strategies for coping with pain. And I'd read, the part where you move around, and I thought, oh, that'll be me. I'm quite an active person. Yep, I'll be the person that's like stomping my feet or that kind of thing. I can't remember what the second chapter was on. And then the third chapter was on vocalizing. And I sort of read this, like I was quite baffled. I was like, wow, I'm not going to be that person. Like I'm going to like just keep this all, I'm just going to keep it in check. Thanks. Like Ryan's there. I don't want to, yeah. I won't be doing that in front of the midwives. I won't be doing that in front of Ryan. Gets into the labour ward, fucking sings it like you've never heard before. About halfway through my first labour, I said to the midwife, so these the rooms are obviously soundproof then. She goes, oh no. And I said, oh well, I can't hear anybody else. And she goes, Dal, you're the only one in here without an epidural today. And I was like, right, ladies, this is what it sounds like. And then she gave me an icy pole because I wasn't able to eat for the whole day, and there was episodes of vomiting and whatnot. She gave me this icy pole. I was like, oh, that's the best thing I've ever had in my entire life. And she goes, oh, there's two more. I've like hidden them in the freezer for you. No other lady. And I was like, oh, thank you. But yeah, so my first labour was pretty textbook. I think I think at no point I knew I never asked for pain relief. I knew I sort of wasn't in that territory. Like obviously it was very painful. But I just knew that I could do it, and I knew that I could just stay in the moment and focus on the here and the now. Like, but you do you. Like some people would look at me and go, that is the worst thing ever. But I feel really lucky to have had that experience.
Me too.
Yeah, and then my third and fourth births were both water births. They both came into the bath, which was really lovely as well. That was I really liked being able to have the opportunity to like revisit that, and it was a really nice thing.
So your last birth didn't quite go how you thought it would after the fact.
Yeah. So I had.
You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
Oh, I'm totally fine too. So leading up to, I felt really funny that whole pregnancy, actually, to be honest. I didn't feel myself. The whole time I felt quite anxious, I guess. I didn't identify it at the time. It was more like looking back on it now and listening to other women tell their birth stories. I go, maybe that was perinatal anxiety. Maybe that's what that was called.
Yeah.
And so I think for a few reasons, I knew it would be our last baby 100%. So I think I put a lot of pressure on it to be like the perfect pregnancy, to have that really lovely journey. I really wanted to love it. I really wanted to love it. And I wasn't feeling great mentally, to be honest. Physically, I was pretty broken. Unlike my other pregnancies where I'd coped physically really quite well, I felt this last one, I felt really smashed all the time. Anyway, the birth itself was really good. I had it was the night before her due date, and I had lined up a birth photographer, and a lady was going to encapsulate my placenta, of course. Of course. You know. So the night before the due date, I text both of those women at about 9 as I was going to bed, and I said, look, I think it was a Thursday. Yeah, it was a Thursday. I said, look, this baby, I don't think it's I don't think it's going anywhere until after the weekend. So, if you want to have a wine or two, or, stand down for the weekend, basically. On Monday, I might start, I might book myself in for some acupuncture, stir things up a bit, as you do. I'm still in control, right?
So it's all on your terms.
That's right. Sent them that little good night text at about 9:30 and jumped into bed, and then half an hour later, my water's broke. I was like, oh.
Not in the plan.
Actually.
Not in the plan. Everyone back on board.
Hey, lady. Yeah. Hope you're not drunk, as per previous text. Turns out we're going to hospital. So with all of my labours, the labour has started, and I've tried to do a bit at home, but then I've just felt this overwhelming sense that I need to be in the space that I'm going to be in to give birth. Transitioning I find really hard, where you're going from the home to the hospital. I find that really hard.
And being stuck in a car or something when you're going through contractions and you can't get comfortable, and you're like, oh my God, I'm panicking.
So funny, right? And I just even driving over the white lines of a zebra crossing, it's like, Ryan, drive smoother, you fucking idiot. I'm having a baby. All I ask is that you just a smooth ride to the hospital, please.
I was stopping at traffic lights, and I'm like, why are you stopping? Yeah. Mate, I will take your red light camera ticket. Fucking drive. Right?
I'll send the transport department a photo of my uterus at that point in time, and you can tell me what you think is
dilated, motherfuckers.
Don't make me send you a photo of the crowning. Don't make me. So on this time, and we also want to
red light ticket in the mail, and you just send back a photo of your baby crowning.
Right.
The end.
So good.
That will be all.
So good. I rest my case. Driving to the hospital, and then Ryan drives. Sorry, I'm just getting a message. Low power. He took the back road where there's all these twists and turns and bumps. It's like, mate, I'm having a baby. We've done this before. It's not the first time. You know which way to drive when I'm in labour. Just sit there, say nothing. It's like, no, righto, mate, you do you. You want to stop and get some food on the way? No problem. Sure. No, but so we had the kids in the car. We took our kids in because I really wanted them to be at the birth, which they were, and which was lovely. And we got into hospital, and it was actually great. It was a really fast labour. I actually really loved it. I feel like no matter, giving birth is probably the hardest thing you might do physically in your life, but I also feel like it's one of the times where I am most in my body and the most present and the most connected to myself, and I really, really like that feeling. I don't think you get it much in life. It was lovely. It was fast water birth. I think it was an hour 45 in the end. She was massive, 9-pound baby, 4 point something kilos, which I didn't find out till quite a bit later. Right. I think I couldn't eat much towards the end of the pregnancy because obviously she was just taking up a lot of room. But yeah, so the birth itself was really lovely. She came out into the water. But I think my uterus, it worked really, really hard. And then so after that, we were sitting down, and we were sort of waiting for the placenta to birth. I'd opted to have a physiological birth of the placenta. So I'd opted to kind of let it happen naturally if possible. However, when I had Otis, my firstborn, I had had a small postpartum hemorrhage, small, about 600 to 900 mils. I can't remember what the exact amount was. So I guess there was always that little bit of a question mark over me because I did have that in my history. So anyway, I couldn't feel any contractions after she was born, sitting there cuddling and all that kind of stuff. Um, so they were asking me if I was feeling anything. No, no. So they gave me the syntocin injection into my leg, and still sort of nothing. So we'd done delayed cord clamping, and that sort of kept pulsating for a while. And then I think because there was no more contractions, we decided at that point to cut it. It was probably about 20 minutes after she was born. So we cut it, and then the midwife was sort of pulling on the cord to try and encourage the birth of the placenta. And then the cord snapped. So then the placenta is fully retained inside me with no sort of cord or, attachment to the outside. So that becomes a sort of that becomes a low grade emergent situation. So at this point, I was feeling pretty rubbish. Like I knew something was going on. I felt like I was fainting. I've never actually fainted before. I don't faint, but I felt like I was fainting. I was really glad I was like actually sitting down. I was really propped up on a lot of pillows. If not, I would have fallen over. So that became a low grade emergent situation. So then they were organising for me to be seen by, the medical team who were on. And in that time, another midwife took my blood pressure. And so my blood pressure was actually 60 on 40. So I don't know but normal blood pressure is 120 on 80. 60 on 40 is pretty critically low. As a nurse, I've looked after one person before, and I've seen that blood pressure once before, and I know how shit scared I was as a nurse, looking after her. So I, of course, was post-birth and had that massive wave of oxytocin. So I'm like, wasn't talking much, but in my mind, I was like, I'm fine, totally fine, totally got this. Like, it's all good. But then by then that became like, that's a full-blown medical emergency. So they hit the buzzer, which alarms through the whole of the birth center and birth suite. So at that point, the room was filled with 20 people. Ryan was just like rushed out of the room with the kids. So obviously with the blood pressure like that, I was bleeding somewhere. There wasn't a lot of external loss. So when they sort of had a feel of my tummy, my whole tummy was just liquid. It sounded like a liquid drum. So they put up a bag of fluids. I became like a category 1 emergency surgery situation. So yeah, I was pretty much put on a stretch bed and like wheeled straight into surgery. I think they were finishing off a cesarean, but that was like, yeah, I would have been in surgery within minutes of that. I'd never had a general anesthetic before. None of that stuff. So my like so natural birth, which was super beautiful, and I'll just always hang on to those really nice memories, had just turned really quite scary. And I had so I lost, I think, 2 liters of blood into my uterus and then another liter externally. So in total, I'd lost 3 liters of blood. My hemoglobin, which is my iron level, was like, my red blood cell count was appallingly low. So I had the surgery that was needed for that. They basically insert a balloon into your uterus and inflate it, so it applies pressure to the whole inside of your uterus. They couldn't identify exactly where the bleeding was coming from, but they do that, and then that stays in there for 12 hours. Obviously you don't move in that time. You have a catheter and all the sort of attachments. So yeah, it was a bit of a shock. It was a bit of a shock after what I'd wanted and what I thought was going to happen. I actually had wanted to have her at home. I'd actually wanted a home birth.
Oh,
Um, Ryan was like, "No, we're not having this baby at home," and I was like,
I draw the
"Look
line
here,
here.
mate."
You're a dirty hippie, and I draw
Yeah,
the line.
he's like, pretty much you can do anything else. You can do anything you want, but we're not doing that. And the things, and I just kind of had this attitude of like, I'll do what I want. I'll have this baby where I want. Thank you very much. But I think the things that put me off about having the baby at home were I've heard stories of people's hot water running out in the bath, and I've heard about the bath pool, the side of it not being strong enough. So they were the things that put me off, and also the cleanup. So, but jokes aside, if I had have had this baby at home, that 10 minutes could have given a very, very, very different outcome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm lucky I was in the hospital system, and I'm lucky to have had the opportunity to have that really nice natural birth, but to have had that complete safety net around me where
If shit went
I was
sideways, you're in the
fine,
right place.
which it did, and I was in the right place.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty scary. I was quite shaken for a long time, as well as being physically, you know, quite wound down. I
Battered.
suppose. Yeah, like recovering from that amount of blood loss is like the breathlessness that I would feel in just walking a couple of meters, and had to work really hard to bring my red blood cells back up, and at the same time I was establishing breastfeeding, and so I felt very, very depleted early on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And so you had the other three kids in there with you when you had Inika. How did they go
Yeah,
with
yeah.
that? Did they get like stressed or upset at any point? Like I know, the few times where I've bashed my leg into something or really hurt myself, G gets quite upset if I'm upset.
Yeah.
How did they go with that?
Yeah, they were actually amazing. So Arlo, who's my 2-year-old, he had actually gone by this point, because we just thought it was the middle of the night, it was midnight. So if he didn't either go back to sleep or settle, that would just really throw everything sideways. And then Ryan would be diverted from looking after me because he would have to entertain a toddler.
Yeah.
So my brother came and picked him up from the hospital.
Yeah.
So we had Otis and Amy. So I'd talked to them about it. I'd said, I'm going to be in a lot of pain, but I will be okay. So you don't need to worry about that. It's pain means that the baby is coming. I said, like, you might see this and you might hear this. We'd talked about it a little bit. Amy, I knew that she's just like this fierce, fierce warrior girl, and I knew she would be amazing.
Yeah.
Otis, who's my son, he's very sensitive, so I knew that it could be difficult for him. But I think being able to talk to him in between contractions, because I could see his little face at times. He was like he was crying. I've got like a photo or two of him like wiping away a couple of tears. But for me to be able to just go in that short break, go, mate, I'm okay. Everything is fine. The midwives would reassure him. Ryan would reassure him. And then he could see that Amy was just holding my hand like a little warrior.
Yeah.
And so then he was like, oh, okay. So yeah, it was, I think that it had its moments. But I'm so glad they were there. Like, it was such a good experience for them. I think for me, Otis actually said to me the other day, he said, you know what, Mum, I think I'm ready to see another baby being born. And I was like, me too, mate. Like,
not
mine
though. It won't be coming out.
Yeah, it's not mine. No. My work here is done. But yeah, so it's just such a privilege for them.
Midwife.
Maybe. Yeah, there's a few males entering now. So they can. They can. It's quite rare, but yeah, I think they actually make great mid-husband and mid-husband. No, they're actually called a midwife. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's rare, but they're around. Yeah, isn't it? It's
that
awesome.
could be his calling.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I think he'd be very good at it.
we might wrap up for today, but thank you so much for sharing all of your amazing stuff. Can you please tell people where they can find you?
So mostly on Instagram, I'm at the Mummas Collective. There's full stops in there.
Cool.
I'll try to maybe do up a little birth stories photo album that you can link in to show some of the things that we've talked about.
Yes, well, I will.
Otherwise, thank you so much. Always love
your Instagram and stuff once we've downloaded the recording as well. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Shan. Thanks, hon.
All right.
Lovely. All right. Talk soon.